Okay, so today we're going to make the everyday tote bag in the plain style. As you see, this is the finished one, and I've done embroidery on this, so you do your embroidery first and get that all done. So these are our two pieces, our facing and our body, and as I say, I've done a print here, but you could do your embroidery on it first. So the first thing we're doing is we're going to overlock across the facing. Snip your ends, and now we're going to go to the plain sewer. Okay, so we're going to put the facing onto the body, right sides together. We're going to do this curve first, so you just match your nicks at the bottom and at the sides. So I'm going to start here. You can use more pins. I don't use a lot of pins when I'm doing it. And industry wouldn't use any, so. And we're going to do 6mm or footward. Make sure you've caught both the seams. Back tack at your ends. So we've sewn that round. What we have to do is, it's quite a small seam anyway, but just nick into your corners to make that sit nice. And then you're going to edge stitch it, so you're going to open it out and you're going to edge stitch on your facing. I just go right on the edge, but you could do a small footwards if you wanted to. So now we're going to go to the press. Okay, so we're just going to press round that. This makes it easy to do the other side. So let the seam sit back so your facing is sitting back on the inside. I always press as I go, it makes it much easier to sew. So what I'm going to look at now is when I turn it over, see that's all nice, sitting nice around here. I'm just looking, make sure my facing is back on the inside. Do you see? That means that it's going to roll the right way. It's a little bit over here, a little bit over there. If you have it a lot over like this, when you bag it through, you'll get a little bit of white showing like that. So we just want to make sure when you press it, is that sitting back? It's sitting right on. It's probably okay. You don't want it showing outside. Okay, so we're back on the plain sew now. As I said, this little bit here is showing. I'm just going to trim that back, the facing. Sometimes you have quite a bit depending on the fabric, so I'm just going to trim this up a little bit on, just to make it easier to sew. So now it's going to be, when you see it, when it's turned through, it will look easier. So let's turn it all back through. Bear with me here. Because we've pressed it, you get the wrong side showing. See how that now, as you can see, the seam's pressing back really nice. So we want that to sit like that. And then we do a footward seam on the other side. Just let the facing sit flat. Make sure that edge is on and sitting flat, and just sew down. Same with this corner, have it all sitting, and just 6 mil around. So everything should be sitting flat and that seam should sit down flat. And all we're going to do is snip around that corner. And then we're going to edge stitch. Bring it round and edge stitch on your facing. Just go up as far as you can. It's really hard because now you've gone on the inside. So just as far as you can. It's just covering, just really holding that curve back so that curve sits nicely like that. So I'm going to quickly do the other side. Looking around the corner and edge stitch just as far as you can up. So that's what we've sewn. We've sewn the corners. Now we're going to put our hands in and pull or bag out your straps. So just go up to the top and just push them through. I'm just going to quickly make sure that these match and these don't match. Yes, no, they're matching. If they're not matching, I'm probably a couple of mils out, I could get it in. I'm just going to go back in here. I'm just a couple of mils out, so it's not going to be major, but you might find that if those two match, trying to sew them together, you'll have trouble. So make sure those two are matching. Now we're going to go to the press. Okay, so we're just going to press all this facing back now. So to get this edge, because it's not edge stitched, when you've edge stitched something, it just sits flat really easy. But this one, you need to roll it. So you need to just roll it with your fingers. You can, if you want, open it out like this and just give it a little press, and then it's easier to roll back like that. But it's a little bit harder than, say, when you're edge stitching, it's much quicker. So I'm just going to roll that over, just push so the seam is flat. Don't worry if you get a crease here, you can press that out later. Wrap this round. So when we're looking from our right side, everything should sit nice and even. Looks pretty good. And if you've got a little bit, this bit's even, but this isn't, you can trim that little bit off. Okay, so we've pressed it all. I've got a little bit showing here. I'm just going to trim that off. These scissors aren't great. So now we're going to attach the strap at the top, right sides together. Guys, look, if you have got one slightly bigger, you want to sit on your, put your one that's slightly smaller, if there is one, and you want to do a centimetre seam, matching. I tend to go over and then I back stitch, and you find that that holds quite well. So this side here, I'm just going to go the same. You don't want your strap falling apart. Trim off your ends. And so everything should be nice and even through here. Okay, so we're going to overlock across our top of our strap. Sometimes this can be quite thick depending on your fabric, so just be aware you don't want to break any needles. Make sure your needles are a thick one if you've got a quite thick fabric. Just overcook. Leave your tails just long enough that you can tuck back and catch, because if you leave them raw they'll stick out and they'll end up running. Okay, so we're back on the plain sewer. So we're going to now just catch our tails back. So our overlocking tails, pull them down and just stitch them onto your seam. This is so they get caught underneath. And we're going to top stitch, so I'm going to fold that back so it covers all that overlocking. Now, with the top stitching, usually you go straight across, and you can do that if you want. I'm going to show you a different way. If this is quite thick and you might break your needle, or you want to cover that seam. So there's a little trick if you're not very good. You can start, I'm going to start on the white because I've got a white thread on. Even there. Make sure that's back. And I'm just going to start there and come to the end. This way you can pull this bit. You can pull this over and you can get a nice finish. Just back tack. And I don't, if you've got an automatic back tack, I don't automatically back tack there. I go back over manually. That's so it doesn't do a fast back tack and you could break your needle. Now I'm going to turn around and start in the same position and come back. Now if it's really thick, you can just walk your needle over this bit here in case you break it. You don't want to break it. Back tack. And you can even just turn around and go back over yourself and back. Always remember to back stitch. You want to hold these seams. But you can see how now it's all nice and neat there. So you can't see any sticky out bits or anything like that. Okay, so we've put our strap all together. So this is what we've got half a bag here. So I've already done the other half because it's exactly the same. So you want to do both your halves, and now we're going to stick them together. Right sides together. Opening up our facing here. And we're just going to pin. We have to match that seam. So I'm going to put a pin there. We're going to match our overlocking too, and this is the centimetre seam. When I'm matching, I just sew along a centimetre and then I flip this back and check. As you come back, you can just check here. That's matching. Otherwise you'd have to unpick. And we're just going to go straight down. Now I'm going to do the other side. Same thing. Matching this seam here. You might not want to put a pin. In industry we don't do pins. Oh, this one's a bit out. So this side's a little bit longer, so I'm going to pull the top a little bit. It's probably a couple mils out. Keep checking, keep checking. So now we've sewn our side seams down. And I'm going to show you how to put the tie in, but you might not want to put your tie in. I'll just show you. Okay, so we've done our sides. Now we're going to do the hem. If you want to put a tie in, you'd put it in now. I've just used a little bit of grosgrain tape. If you're using this, I haven't got a lighter, but you can just melt the ends and they won't fray. You don't actually put it in the flame, you just put it next to it and it will just melt and that will seal it. So you want to fold it in half. And just open up and put the fold right on your seam, on your knit. And just catch it there, just with a hot wedge. Now that goes on the inside. And you're going to do across the bottom of the bag, the centimetre seam. Making sure that tape or the ribbon or whatever you want to use as your tie sits nice and flat. You can use a bit of scrap or a bit of your lining or something that matches your bag. A bit of cord if you want. So that's all now sewn round and bagged out. We now have to go to the overlocker. Okay, so we're going to just overlock round our inside of our bag. I always leave my tails. That's all our overlocking finished. We're going to go back to the plain sewer. Okay, first of all I'm just going to catch my tails at the bottom. So with our facing, on one side we're just going to hold it tight and fold over your seam, making sure your seam is right to the top. So when you're folding over it, it's really tight. Now there's two ways. You can either start at the top and sew down just on the inside of your seam. You don't have to be right on, you can just be, you know, the seam is actually, you can see the difference. You're just catching on the outside. So when you turn it over, all you've done is caught that on the inside going down, and see how that sits nice and flat and nice and flat and nice and sharp here. So I went from the top last time. I'm going to go, just making sure, sorry, if I just flip them through, you want to send it so it folds both the same way. So I'm going to start from the bottom here. Now you can decide whichever way you want to go. Some people like going from the bottom, some people like going from the top. So making that nice and tight, and just on the inside of your seam, come to the top. Bag it through. And if you keep that seam tight, you'll have a nice edge at the top. Just going to pull my bag through now and have a look at that. That looks good. Open this out, make sure my facing's sitting right nicely back, and in the middle I'm going to just put 2 pins. Now we're going to top stitch this down. Facing, you just follow your overlocking round. This is where hopefully your overlocking's nice and everything's nice and straight. Making sure everything's sitting nice and flat. You can put more pins if you want. I've got a little bit of a bag here, you can see that, so I'm going to have to ease that in a little bit. So that's all top stitched down now. Just trim your cotton ends. That's our top all done. Now we're going to go, you could leave your bag like this and it will have a square end like this, but I'm going to do my corners. So you could just finish your bag like this if you wanted to. If you want to do your corners, you come to your bottom and you fold, you grab each side, so your seam here matches your seam on the side. You can feel them, and you can just put a pin. Those are both matching, you're just to one side. Give it a little bit of a press. And you're just going to go sew straight across. So it's about 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters from the edge. I'm going to start just little, and I'm going to go straight across. Gives a really nice end to, you know, your bag out, but at the bottom it makes it look a little bit cooler, I think. I'm just going to push those corners out. And you can see how it sits up now. Your bag has a little bit of a square bottom. As I say, if you did it the other way, when I'm bagging out, say a seam, I fold the seam over, and then I fold the seam over and hold it with my thumb and push it through, and you get a really nice point. So if we look at both ends, that's without the mitering at the bottom, and then this is the mitre. So you can decide which way you're going to do it. I like this way, so I'm going to just quickly go back in and just catch that across. So remember, pull it out, put the seam to one side, make sure it's matching, and then it's about an inch, like 2.5 centimetres from the end. So turn it over, hold it, flick it through, and you get nice little points. And that's your bag. Okay, so we've finished our bag, and I have pressed it now. There's a few little things. When you're wearing the bag, these will hang down, the ties. So if you don't want them tying, just do a loop and do a bow and catch them up. Like that. If you want to, as you say, you don't need to put the tie on here if you just want a normal bag. Now, to roll the bag, you put it in half. So the straps are all going like that. And then you fold it in a third and a third. You start from the top, roll it down. As you see, this is quite thick, so, and you can roll it round and tie it. If you use quite a thin fabric, it would be quite a good shopping bag to put in your own little bag, and that's what it ends up to be.